much. Now to Capitol Hill, where the government is officially in the midst of a partial shutdown. In a moment, we will talk with House Speaker Mike Johnson about the challenges he's got now finding a way forward. But let's first go to Fox News Chief Congressional Correspondent Chad Pergram on Capitol Hill. Hello, Chad.
Shannon, good morning. Ending the partial government shutdown comes down to one thing, the math. But Republicans can only lose 2 votes and still align with the Senate. House Democrats are balking at supporting the bill the Senate approved Friday night.
Democrats are being asked to support ICE, and we're saying we're not going to fund public executions. We're not going to fund roving thugs who are terrorizing women. We don't want to have that on our conscience.
Democrats will not support any funding bill until they are guaranteed changes at ICE. The left wants to defund ICE completely. I asked House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries last week if there was a disconnect between Senate Democrats forging a deal and the demands of House Democrats. So are you confident that what they're going to do next door is going to reflect what the position is on the House when it comes to this?
We are on the same page. Now, with respect to what emerges from the Senate, as is always the case, we will evaluate whatever bill comes over to us on its merits.
78% of the government is shut this weekend. That includes the Pentagon, housing programs, and the Department of Homeland Security. Republicans believe Democrats are trying to impede immigration enforcement.
We're not going to allow Democrats to hamstring ICE. We're going to take our country back, and we're going to continue to keep the border secure and to deport illegal aliens. But again, the key is that we're not going to let Democrats gut DHS funding.
Now, the House votes on the Senate funding plan tomorrow night, but there's only a 2-week Band-Aid for DHS. That's not much time to reach a deal on ICE. Shannon?
All right, Chad Pergram reporting from Capitol Hill. Thank you very much, Chad. Joining us now, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. Good to have you here. I know you didn't want a partial shutdown for your birthday, but that's where we are. Are you talking with Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries?
I am, and let me explain quickly what Chad just explained there, a little more detail. So after the 43-day shutdown last fall, the Democrats hoisted upon America the longest in history. We tip our hat to all the appropriators in both parties. They got together. They were insistent to get all the appropriations bills done. There's supposed to be 12 every year. We did that. And because of their hard work, bipartisan, bicameral, we got that through the process, and now the Senate and the House have approved 11 of the 12 funding bills. Now, they modified it because they broke out the Department of Homeland Security bill in the last package, which sends it back to us. It has to be reevaluated. I'm interested in what Hakeem Jeffries said there. He and I have been talking. He said they'll evaluate the bills on their merits. That's great, because the 5 bills coming back to us are exactly the same as they were when we passed it just a couple weeks ago. So the Homeland Security bill will be separated. 2 weeks of intense negotiations to try to figure this out. But what Brandon Gill said there, my House colleague, Republican, is right. We have to allow ICE to do its job. We have to allow Border Patrol to do its job, and we're going to make sure they have the funding to do that.
Well, first of all, you've got to get through the House passing this 2-week patch that comes back over from the Senate. Now, you have a couple of ways of doing that without getting too wonky. There's one slightly quicker way that would require a 2/3 vote, but that obviously is going to require Democrat votes. It doesn't sound like they're there. But if you go the longer route with the rule, you can do it with a majority vote, but you got a really tight margin there. And some of your members on the Republican side are saying, we don't want to vote for this. So how do you close down both the left and the right flanks?
We'll have a lot of conversations to have with individual Republican members over the next 24 hours or so. We'll get all this done by Tuesday, I'm convinced. We do have to do it we have a rule process, which will be probably on our own. I don't understand why anybody would have a problem with this, though. Remember, the bills that have already been passed, we're going to do it again. It's a formality at this point. The Homeland Security bill is important, and we have important negotiations. The president is leading this. It's his play call to do it this way. He has already conceded that he wants to turn down the volume, so to speak, and make sure this is done in an appropriate way. What a great step it was to put Tom Homan in charge of the situation in Minneapolis and Minnesota. He has 40 years experience. He's brought a steady hand to the wheel. And all that is to be applauded. And he himself has already acknowledged to Leader Schumer in the Senate, and I'm sure he'll say the same to House Democrats, that some of the reforms and the processes are fine with them. For example, we want body cameras on Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents. In fact, in the bill that the Democrats are currently rejecting, we put $20 million into that legislation to allow for that. So, look, I think there's some healthy conversations in good faith that'll be had over the next couple of days, and I look forward to that.
Okay, so there are billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars for ICE. They're going to keep operating even if this DHS funding goes away. For now, it affects FEMA and TSA and other things. But Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says this. He says one of the things they want to do, in addition to negotiating these reforms, they want all the money that ICE is now spending, or where it's allocated, no matter where it comes from, to be tagged with those reforms. If there's money you guys have already approved for ICE, can any reforms reach to that money?
We put all of that funding in the big, beautiful bill, the Working Families Tax Cut. And I'm glad that we did, because we had to fix the crisis that was created by the Biden administration over the previous 4 years. They opened the border wide. It was absolute chaos. We allowed, by some estimates, 20 million illegal aliens to come into the country, and many of them hardened, dangerous people, criminals. We've got to get them out of the country. So we had to front load the funding. That will be there, and as you noted, it doesn't matter what they do to the current DHS bill, those operations will continue. Exactly.
Okay, so you got 2 weeks. You've already burned through a couple of days based on how this works. Here is what Senator Kennedy thinks about the odds of getting something done in the next few days.
I think it's likely that the next 2 weeks surrounding putting together a DHS budget will have all the efficiency of an 8th grade car wash.
I mean, I've talked to Republicans and Democrats who don't think you're going to get this hammered out in the next 2 weeks. Now, we're looking at maybe a week and a half. So are we going to have another partial shutdown in 2 weeks?
Far be it from me to disagree with my friend and brother, the great and wise senator from Louisiana, John Kennedy. But I have to be a little more optimistic than that. I've got to get everybody in a room and work this out. I think we can. Look, as I said, the head of DHS and the head of the operations in Minnesota and the president himself have said that we're close to getting there. We can agree to some of these conditions because everybody, all the American people, want the law to be enforced and done in a meaningful and efficient and effective way. Immigration enforcement should be balanced and fair and safe and all of that. Now, I will say that we need good faith on both sides, especially in the implementation. And what the problem that you have in Minnesota is that you've had the governor and local leaders who have been basically inciting violence in some cases. They're encouraging citizens to impede federal law enforcement, and that sets up a dangerous, chaotic situation. And so we need everybody to do their role and play their role and do their part, and I think we can.
Well, there's some Democrats who don't sound like they're going to move at all. They're talking about violations of constitutional rights, people being disappeared, saying that ICE is not operating within the law. They don't sound like they're going to be ready to cave on some of these things. They want masks off of these ICE agents. They want them wearing ID that tells exactly who they are. I mean, are those the kinds of things you think any of your members are going to cave on?
Well, those two things are conditions that would create further danger. I mean, Tom Homan told Leader Schumer himself, I was part of the conversation in the Oval Office a few days ago, he said that's one of the demands that I'm not going to be able to implement. I have to protect my officers. And when you have people doxing them and targeting them, of course we don't want their personal identification out there on the streets. And so we've got to work through this in a meaningful way, in a thoughtful way that comports with common sense. We need to turn down the volume, decrease the danger, and taking the mask off and putting their names and addresses on their uniforms.
You don't think there are House GOP votes for those kinds of things?
No, there won't be, and I don't think the president would approve it, and he shouldn't.
Okay, I want to ask you about some polls that we've got out this week. This looks ahead to the midterms. We've got Fox News polling out on congressional vote preference. The Democrats now have a 6-point lead on that. Now, that stands in contrast to this from the Federalist. They cite Quinnipiac pollsters reporting that congressional Democrats had a record low job approval of 18%, 73% disapproval, worst since the tracking began in 2009. So why are you guys down to them 6 points on the generic ballot?
Well, that's not unusual. It's almost always the case, and that's a lower number on the generic ballot of favorability for them than the last midterm election. I am very bullish on the midterms. I'm convinced, Shannon, that we're going to win. We have an extraordinary record to run on. We're raising more money than Democrats right now. I personally raised $82 million as an all-time record for a speaker last year. And when you combine that with the Congressional Leadership Fund, which is the Speaker's endorsed super PAC, I raised $218 million. The NRCC has better numbers. The RNC has better numbers. We're going to have a war chest to run on and a great record and extraordinary candidates to put out there on the field. We've got the tailwinds, and I think we're going to defy history and do this and grow our majority. I need a margin larger than one, Shannon. It'll make the job a little easier.
It's going to be very tricky, especially after that special election from Texas yesterday. Quickly, these are a couple of the issues where Fox News polling shows that voters give Democrats the edge. On affordability, they're plus 14. On helping the middle class, plus 14. Can you turn that around before
Yeah, absolutely. We're in the process of doing it right now. The Working Families Tax Cut that we passed last year, the big, beautiful bill, will be implemented fully this quarter and next. The economic growth numbers will go up. It's written for lower and middle class earners, and they are the ones that are going to feel the effects. No tax on tips, overtime, tax relief for seniors. The average American household is going to have $10,000 more in their pocket because of the reforms that we put in, and it will go on and on and on. So all boats will rise. People will see the effects of that. This is about promises made, promises kept, and we are excited to go out on the campaign trail and tell that story.
Well, first of all, I've got to get the government up and running again. We'll track the vote this week. Speaker, great to see you.
Thanks
For coming
you too.
in.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.